So today I want to talk a little bit about, why did I say that like an Englishman? I want to talk a little bit about laptops versus computers when you talk about value proposition. So I'm talking about the discrepancy in price to performance when considering the benefits of a laptop versus the benefits of a computer, and of course the negative aspects of both as well. The thing about laptops is that, of course, at a premium of price, you are getting compatibility, compactness, power saving, and usually quite a good screen. Uh, but there are also drawbacks, and these are things like power in terms of performance, usually quite a bad keyboard, and overall just a smaller screen for the most part for most laptops if you are going in this price point. And so the point of the video is to compare a 1300 laptop to another 1300 laptop to some computers that are in that same ballpark of price range. Now, $1,300 is no small amount for a laptop. That is, I mean, you could get a pretty solid gaming PC for that kind of money. And so I was sort of just taking a look at what kind of laptop you can get for that kind of money, and these are just some examples that came up. Now, this one is on sale, but I don't consider sale price in this, and I also don't consider shipping, because this video just isn't about that. This video is just a look on what you can get for the money from a laptop versus a computer. Now, the thing about a laptop, I quickly mentioned the benefits and the negatives. But if we think about it, the benefits of a laptop to some might outweigh the negatives of a computer. Now, this is someone that is a professional but needs to travel but still wants to game, or does professional work on a laptop that needs to be quite powerful. But let's be realistic. When you plug out a laptop, it loses all of that power instantly. So you're not going to be sitting on the subway doing your work. You're going to be sitting at a power point. Now, this might still be in a restaurant or at the airport, whatever it might be. But it's not like you can plug out the laptop and it still have it at that performance level for a long time at least. So there are use cases for people to need powerful laptops that need to travel, and maybe they still want to play Call of Duty when they get to their Airbnb or whatever it might be. But of course, with a computer, you are getting that performance out of the box, and you don't have that ability to travel with a computer. Well, you do, but no one's going to do that. But you are getting a lot more power for the same price. So to quickly rattle off the benefits, laptops are smaller. Some people like the form factor. They usually have good screens, good color reproduction, although their screens are smaller as well. They allow, obviously, portability, as I've said. What else are some benefits to a laptop? Well, they are sort of an all-in-one solution, right? Because you get a keyboard, you get audio, you get the screen, everything all in one. And with a computer, you don't get those. You need to consider that you need to add an amount of money for computers to get those things out of the experience. But some of the negative to laptops are and one more positive, of course, is power saving. So it's a reduced price of electricity. But the negatives are small screen, usually quite a bad keyboard, the power, of course, because it's not going to be as powerful as the desktop variant of the components, and battery life to a lot of people could be an issue. And apart from that, laptops tend to overheat pretty easily, whereas the PC counterparts don't really do that. But enough on why I'm doing the video. Let's actually take a look at the laptops that I've chosen, and again, these are just random ones that jumped out at me. So this first one here is an HP Victus. Now, I really like the way that these HP Victuses look. I think they look really cool. I don't know how performant the chassis is in terms of heat dissipation, but they look nice at least. And this one has a RTX 4060 laptop GPU. It has a 16.1 inch HD screen at 144 hertz refresh rate, and it has a Ryzen 7 8840 excuse me 8845HS. It has 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM. That's quite impressive. It has a 2 terabyte SSD. That's quite big, and it comes with Wi-Fi 6. So the thing about the laptop, of course, it's a very all-in-one solution, and this laptop spec-wise is quite good. I mean, 64 gigs of RAM, you're not going to get that with a pre-built computer very easily. So in terms of specs, this is quite a good laptop. But will it outperform a computer of the same price? I doubt it. Let's take a look at the second one here. This one is a AMD variant in terms of graphics. So this is the Asus TUF A16. This has a Ryzen 7 7735HS. It has a RX 7700S, which is a little bit worse than the 4060 in terms of graphic performance. It has a 16-inch Full HD 165 Hz display, so the screen's a little bit faster there. Also has 64 gigs of RAM, only a 1 terabyte SSD though. And this one does have a RGB backlit keyboard, and you get some extras with it, but I don't consider those for this. So in terms of performance, this laptop is decent. I mean, I feel like it's a lot of money to get relatively okay performance. At HD, the performance will be fine. You'll be able to max out almost any game really for both of them. But in terms of how much you're paying, I do feel like you are leaving a lot on the table. Now, if you're someone that needs a laptop, I mean, your options are limited. But if we take a look at the gaming computers, you'll see that the market is favored towards the desktop side in terms of pricing. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, laptops are more expensive to produce. So the first computer I've gone for is the MSI Codex Z2 gaming desktop. It's sort of like a pre-built from MSI. This one has a Ryzen 7 8700F, so instantly a better CPU. This is an 8-core 16-thread CPU, I think. It has a RTX 4070, so that's a lot better than a 4060 desktop and a 4060 laptop and a 7700 laptop. 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, so half of the RAM, but you'll be surprised that it doesn't actually make that big of a difference in terms of, well, in terms of gaming, at least. If you're going to be doing 3D work or something like that, it'll make a big difference. But 32 gigs honestly is enough. 2 terabyte NVMe, so same as the one laptop. And yeah, that's about it for the desktop. So in terms of just raw power, this is just so much better. And this is $60 more, but it's, it's the same ballpark of price, and that's what I'm looking at. And this is a much more powerful computer. You get some quite premium components with this. I'm not sure about the CPU cooler or anything like that, but I do believe that these CPUs don't come with coolers. So I guess you'll get like a aftermarket cooler with this. And just in terms of overall performance, this is just going to be so much better than those laptops. It does seem like it has a motherboard that has Wi-Fi. So it seems like it even has Wi-Fi out of the box. Now it doesn't say that anyway, so I wouldn't be too sure of that, but just from the pictures it seems like it. So in terms of just, overall performance, this destroys the laptops. But you have to consider what I said about the all-in-one solution, because now, yes, it's only $60 more, but you have to buy a screen that is, in this example, an HD screen that is 144 Hz at least. So it's about $200. You have to get a keyboard. A good keyboard is about $100. You have to get a mouse. It's about $50. And you have to get speakers. That's about $50. So you are looking at another $500, $500 to get the same level of peripheral from this. But you have to consider that the peripherals will be of a higher spec and a higher quality than that of the laptop. It's going to be a bigger screen. It's going to be a better keyboard, probably a fully mechanical keyboard. It's going to be a nice mouse. For $50 you could get a nice wireless mouse. So you are talking about a better spec of component. But let's take a look at the next desktop here. This one is $1,200, so it's a little bit cheaper than the laptops. And this is a Asus pre-built. It's a 2024 ROG, I assume that should be Strix GA15. It has a Ryzen 7 5800X, so we are stepping back in terms of platform, because this is going back to Zen 3, but it has a 3080. It has only 16 gigs of RAM, so it is a step down in the RAM there. If we go to the 32, let's go to the 32 gig option, because that's closer to the price. So for $1,360, the same price as the previous computer, which is a DDR5 computer, consider that. This now has a 5800X, so it's a better CPU. It's an 8-core 6-thread CPU, and even though it's an older CPU, I do think it'll be at least on par with the 7735 and the 8845. I think it'll be on par or a little bit better because of the desktop power that it will deliver. It has a RTX 3080, so that's a much better graphics card. And now it has 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. Also comes with Wi-Fi. And so overall, I mean, the look of it is sort of subjective, but that's not something I'm going to consider for this video. I think it looks okay. It doesn't look amazing, but that doesn't really matter for something like this. But when you're just talking about performance, the CPU will outperform, I believe, the CPUs in the laptops. The graphics card is going to outperform them by a lot, even though we are taking a step back in terms of platform, in terms of architecture for both the graphics card and the CPU. It is still going to be better. Now the RAM is DDR4, so you are capping yourself to a previous platform, but even so, the performance is going to be really good. But again, like I said previously, you now have to think about the price for a screen, a keyboard, a mouse, and speakers, and a mouse pad as well. So you're talking about $500 there. And if we consider that, I think it might be more fair to take a look at a computer like this, because this is $900, so it's $400 off the price of these laptops, right? So let's take a look at what we can get for the price of the laptops, but leave ourselves some budget to buy a screen, a keyboard, a mouse, speakers, and a mouse pad. So we are looking at the Frozen Phantasm gaming PC. This has a Ryzen 5600, which is a 6-core CPU, so it's a little bit worse. It has a 4060 base, 8 gig, so it's going to be close to the laptop one, a little bit better, obviously. And it has a 1 terabyte NVMe, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and it comes with a 600 watt power supply. It has a bunch of fans and it looks quite nice, if you care about that. But when we're talking about performance, now we are much closer to that laptop level of performance than what we were with these PCs. So it's interesting to look at it that way. I think in terms of the CPU, the laptop CPUs will outperform this. This only has 16 gigs of RAM and a base 4060. Now when you're talking about gaming, this is going to be on par with those laptops at the least, probably a little bit better, just because the 4060 is better than the 4060 mobile. I mean, that's just what it is. So this will still be a little bit better for gaming, and you have that budget for a screen and for your other peripherals. So it's interesting to look at it that way. But if you don't consider the peripherals, then these PCs are a much better value than the laptops. But I do think you need to consider the peripherals, and I do think for $900 you could get a much better PC than this. This is just something that I saw quickly. Let's take a look at like a random other one. This is another $900 one. Let's just see what's out there for $900 computers on Amazon. And I'm basing the video on Amazon, but you can do it from anywhere. This is just a general look at laptop as opposed to desktop performance for these kinds of prices. So for this one, the Skytech Archangel, you get a Ryzen 5700X, you get a RX 6600, so that's a little bit worse there, a 1 terabyte SSD and 16 gigs of RAM. So, and you do get Wi-Fi and a decent power supply. So in terms of gaming performance, this is actually going to be a little bit worse than those laptops, because this has a RX 6600, which at this point is like 3 or 4 generations old. And while it is still a good card for HD gaming, and it's not going to be up to the level of a 4060 mobile, I don't think. And in terms of CPU, this is going to be pretty much on par with the CPUs of the laptops. But I do think that if you do want to spend $1,500 on a computer, maybe you should get something that is all-in-one where a screen is included, or you should custom build it and not buy something like this from Amazon. Even if you buy new parts, I'm sure you could get better prices than these for a $900 computer, because the value on the computers for the $1,300 one is a lot better. You're talking just so much more performance. So I would consider something like that. But I'm sure if you take a look at the other computers, yeah, there are better options. Personally, I would buy like a case and a power supply new, and then just buy everything else secondhand, and probably end up paying like $600 for something that is on the level of something like this, maybe $1,000 all in all for screen and everything. So to summarize then, laptops have worse value, but if you consider the peripherals and the screen, the value sort of gets a lot closer. Laptops run a lot hotter, so you have to consider that. PCs are going to be quieter, but the laptops do have some sort of advantage where if you are someone that's on the move, I mean, it is what it is. You just need a laptop in that case. And to a lot of people, if you live in a small house, these computers can be quite bulky and they can take up a lot of space and a big screen and all of that. So there are people that live in smaller spaces that need something that is a little bit more tight, that you can just put on the kitchen table and play a little bit of games, not have to worry about having a massive desk where you can put it. So, it comes down to what you need as an individual. But if we're just talking performance, the PCs destroy the laptops. But I knew it's no secret that the PCs are going to be much better for the same price. It's just interesting to look at the value of laptops going into 2025. And I feel like the value isn't really there yet. I think the price to performance, it's not good enough in my opinion. So let's take a look at some of that gaming performance. So a 4060 Ti, which is in the, I think that's in one of the computers, or let's just say a base 4060 versus a 4060 mobile. So the computer, I think the previous one that we had open, this one has a 4060. So if you go with this one, a 4060 versus the GPU in this laptop, you get a 12.6% uplift of performance. So you're going to get a little bit higher FPS in your games when you take and this is the computer that I chose for having enough money to buy peripherals as well, and then ending up at the same price as a laptop. So you're going to get a few frames extra. So even if you do buy everything, you'll still have a little bit of a leg up on those laptops. But at this point, the laptop might make more sense because of that amount of RAM, and because if you want to get into production work, the laptop's going to be better because it's a better CPU, more RAM, and the form factor is going to be nicer for people that are in a little bit of a smaller space. Getting into the other computer, this one, which is a fantastic value because it has a 4070, it has a 8700F, so it's a good CPU, good GPU, 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. It's up to date. It's a nice computer. And this one has a 71% uplift over the GPU in this laptop. So at that point, it's a much bigger difference. But of course, like I said with the screen, now you have to buy those. But I'm just not going to look at that for this. So this computer has a much better performance. You're going to get a lot more frames. You're talking about probably 30 to 40 frames more in most games. I mean, that's a weird statement to make, but in some games it will be that amount. Then a 4060 versus a 3080, and that's in this computer, which is older platform but good GPU, and also 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM in this one. So the RAM's going to be slower than the laptop, but it's a good amount of RAM. And the difference in performance from a 3080 to a 4060 is of course 42.9%. So that's also a big difference. I do think that this computer is the best value. It also has a bigger SSD, so I would probably go with that one. But both of them are a better value in terms of gaming performance, and this one sees a 42% uplift. Now when we compare these two laptops, This one has a 4060 mobile and this one has a 7700 mobile. We are looking at a, well, that's the wrong one. Let's just fix that. It should be a 4060 mobile. So we are looking at a 17.3% difference in gaming performance between the 4060 mobile and the 7700S. So it depends on which CPU you prefer, which, well, not CPU, because the CPU in this one is objectively better, but it depends on which chassis you prefer. But I mean, this one is just a better value overall. It just is the way it is. So to sort of summarize everything, I think that laptops do make sense to a set number of people that have a very specific set of needs that they need fulfilled by their machine. But if you're a gamer, or even if you're someone that does production but you're going to work from home, get something like this. This is going to be a much more powerful machine, and it's just going to serve you better for everything that you need to do. It's going to be quieter, it's going to be cooler, and you know, it doesn't need to take a lot of space. You can put it under the desk if you want to. It's going to get dusty, but you could. So yeah, that sort of summarizes my thoughts on this. I think laptops don't have the value for the performance yet. So for me, buying a PC makes more sense, and getting something like this secondhand, you will be able to spend about $1,300 on the case plus the peripherals if you get this for about $1,000 somewhere, even if it is secondhand. Thanks for watching. I've been doing a lot of content lately, and the viewership has been up, so thanks to everyone for watching and supporting, for leaving comments and engaging. I enjoy talking with you all very much, so I hope that we can keep doing that, and I hope that you enjoy the videos. I'm just doing whatever feels natural to me, whatever I want to do really, and I've been enjoying it. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.